All right, here we go. We got somebody already. Let's bring up positivity. Got some familiar faces in here too. Morning.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks for taking the time. And I just wanted to ask about the Leviathan arena. Like, what's your perspective on that? I imagine it's after open beta, but if you could talk a bit about that, because that's something I'm very keen on. And
so, by Leviathan Arena, do you mean the Leviathan game mode, which takes place in the arena, or are you talking about the sort of the
game
arena
mode
itself, the game mode? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Leviathan Arena is sort of our Wales playground, right? Our goal with competitive competitive, aka Ascendant, is to have it be as competitive as humanly possible and as fair as humanly possible, right? But that doesn't necessarily play too well with the idea of having really powerful Illuvials, leveling them up, getting cool stats, having them be particularly powerful. A strong Ramfire is a lot stronger than a weak Ramfire. And you can't really have that while still making the competitive mode available, right? Like at the end of the day, our goal is mainstream adoption. We want your everyday players to be playing Illuvium. And if we allow the random stat modifiers and so forth to get involved with that, then suddenly it becomes more about whacking someone over the head with your wallet rather than gameplay and skill. So what we have done here is we've got the Leviathan, which is then for that aspect of it, right? It allows the extremes of our gameplay to come forth, to have the craziest of crazy comps, but the underlying recipe is largely the same as competitive. It won't be unfamiliar to you. It won't be different. It's not massively different rules. It's just the overall power that players will be able to put on the board and use will be significantly higher, right? A top tier Ramfire is, 20, 30% stronger than a average Ramfire, right?
I'll just add to that as well. The Leviathan mode has always been a mode which has been a little bit hairy. It can sort of be deemed as or seen as wagering, because to go in that arena, you need to put down some type of ETH bet. If we weren't to do that, that would also be an interesting concept, and we could definitely keep the game mode alive without that. But there could be some regulatory issues that we run into there, which would mean that we just wouldn't run with that game mode, potentially.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, on the perspective of timelines, this would be something we do after competitive mode. So competitive mode, aka Ascendant, will be coming out for that. But the good news is, by and large, the actual worked once competitive mode to also have Leviathan is relatively limited, from at least from a gameplay side. As Kieran's talking about, wagering and so forth, that is obviously potentially huge amounts of work, but from a raw gameplay, that actual experience is part and parcel. One of the advantages we have with our data-driven approach and the way that we have structured our design and our actual systems is that these sub-modes, once we've got this foundation in place, become relatively trivial to add, right? Like, we can make these modes fair in a rapid manner, right? Like the PV1 was a lot of work to get out, but PV2 is a lot less work. And once we have these building blocks, basically we get faster and faster and faster as we progress. Is that all right? Do you have any questions to that?
It's totally fine. Just thanks.
Perfect. Perfect. Good start. Good start. We'll go ahead and move you out. There we go. Okay, now we got some people lined up.
People.
Yep. Annie Mositas. I'm inviting you up right now. I think you got to accept it. There you go.
Yeah. Hey, what's good, guys?
How's it going?
Good, man.
Very well. Yeah. Hey. So I have Yeah, so I appreciated Ben's comments on mainstream adoption, and I also was really impressed with the latest IIP for the Illuvitars, because I think clearly you can see the focus on making even that game mode more accessible to non Web3 natives. I'm really curious, Kieran, how have your views on either the pace or the key infrastructure elements needed for mainstream adoption evolved in the past 3 to 6 months?
As in, like, for us specifically, or the space in general?
Sure. I think both would be interesting. Maybe specifically for Illuvium first.
Yeah, so we've started thinking about the idea of a non-custodial wallet, where we basically have a marketing funnel where we can go after Web3 people and they receive like the full experience, with NFTs, and you've got your own wallet and you connect it straight away and you can sell and do all that kind of stuff. But then we've started thinking about what it looks like to onboard a Web2 person. And so we're thinking about, firstly, from a marketing perspective, having a landing page which literally has no reference to crypto. And so when you get in, you're onboarded with no wallet and just a pure account creation. And then you have the ability over time to basically choose whether you want to create that wallet. And so, yeah, we're really thinking about what we do there in terms of like getting mainstream adoption, but still we need to, think about the low-hanging fruit here, which is the Web3 people.
Very good. And then, in terms of maybe the general Web3 space, have you seen any movement towards or away from mainstream, either due to bear market conditions or general happenings within Web3?
Really, I think there still is more and more people that are adopting it, and especially like there's a lot of Web2 teams now, which they might have been in a AAA studio and they're starting to think, okay, maybe if we created an indie studio in Web2, it wouldn't have the same impact as all of this buzz and hype that's going on in Web3. So I think over the past probably, 3 to 6 months, I've seen probably a 2-3x influx in those teams coming into the space. So I'd say overall, it's still looking very, very positive. Like the good thing about people in Web 2 is they're not so transfixed on the price. So the AAA teams that I speak to and that I've invested in, a lot of them, it's just about building a fun game, because that's all they know. Before this, Ben, it was all about him building fun games. Now we're connecting it to the blockchain. I don't think that really should matter, and it shouldn't. Like, obviously we make some design decisions based on that, but the key thing here is just building fun games.
Very good. Appreciate it, guys.
Cool. Perfect. We'll go ahead and move you to the audience then. Thank you for the questions. I was going to read a couple real quick. I think it should be quick from the chat in general. But Fizzo JBL 1002, he was wondering if we had any update on mobile development and if it wasn't happening because of there not being a capital raise. I think that's kind of directed towards you, Kieran.
Yeah, for sure. So it certainly hasn't helped not raising that capital, but we're still in the process of searching for different teams. It's a pretty difficult process because we've got such a high standard and we need to go AAA. That port across is absolutely critical. And so finding the right team that has the same motivations as us and the same quality, and it being external is quite difficult. So I don't even know, like I'm not even confident that we would have, even if we had that money, we would have been able to find a team in that time.
Yeah. Yep. All of this takes time and money.
Yeah. And
All right,
350 million of it would have been good, but
Let me check behind the couch. See if I can help.
there, mate.
All right, let's bring Scoriox up, and then I'll take another one from the general. Scoriox,
how's it going?
How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. As you guys know, I'm very keen for Illuvium Zero, so I just have like 2 questions for that. Firstly, how many limited blueprinty sort of things for that time before the overworld do you think there could be in Illuvium Zero? I mean, as general as you can be is fine as well, obviously. And the other one's a bit simpler. The alpha that's going to come out, hopefully in the next 2 months, 3 months, or whatever it's going to be, is that going to come out with the free-to-play version as well that anyone can download from the App Store?
To the second one, yes. Oh, sorry. Hang on. As in like connected to the blockchain on the App Store?
Not necessarily. I mean, just like the free-to-play version, we don't need land. Is that going to come out at the same time, the alpha?
I don't think we're planning. No, I don't think so. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but no, I don't think so.
I don't believe so. At least it's not off the cards, but it's not entirely on the cards. There's some stuff going on with, getting onto the app stores and just complexity involved in that, which is not top of the priority list right now. Sure. Longer term, it still remains, pretty important for us. Like we can get a great product out there and, just as another funnel in, hey, go play Illuvium on the App Store. Don't have a clue what you are, but have a great game. That's just, free work. We've already made the great game. But as far as I'm aware, no.
I don't think so. No.
And for the blueprints, how many do you think for the limited run?
We're not talking about that yet. It's still under discussion, but it's also, even if we had a complete answer, I don't think we'd be telling you.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, thanks, Scoriox.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
We got one from Poor Man Printing over here in the type chat. He says, I know Illuvium is coming, but I was wondering if MMO Illuvium is on the books for the future. I believe it's...
So would say me and Kieran have talked about occasionally. I wouldn't say it's it's somewhat something we discussed, but I think you've got to bear in mind that our goal isn't to make... our primary goal is make great games, right? Realistically, that is our goal. That's been the underlying premise on the design, right? Like by and large, our goal is make an awesome game and have blockchain elements involved, right? It's that way around. And realistically, making an MMO is an enormous endeavor. You're talking hundreds of millions or don't bother, and hundreds of millions plus years or don't bother. And right now, I mean, it's definitely, down the line, I think quite a lot of us would love to make an MMO. It's not the sort of thing that we're going to be starting in a short time frame or, tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, we'll probably have a MOBA before then, but is it something that I would absolutely love? Yes, like without a doubt.
Yep, me as well. All righty, let's get TSG up here. There we go.
You
Am
can
I
take
taking this
that
one, Kieran, or are you?
Yeah. No, you can take that one.
All
Just
right.
don't just don't okay? But yeah, you can give progression.
Tomorrow. Okay. So internally, we've got the internal build. It's an internal playtesting right now. It's behind our internal schedule, largely because just it wasn't quite up to standard, and there were some things that caught us out. But it's coming along decently. We've got the checkpoints, we've got the augments working, we've got by and large it's balance and bug fixing going on right now, rather than creation or sort of implementation of completely new things. So it's coming along decently. It's probably all I'd say.
Ben, could you just clarify something for people while we have this many people here? Like the difference between PvE2 and the arenas and that stuff. Like what exactly each is. You know what I mean?
I do not know what you mean.
So a lot of people were confused thinking PvE2 was going to be the upgraded arena. You know what I mean?
You mean like ascendant mode, competitive and so forth?
Yeah.
Okay. So the way we view it is there will be betas and versions of these different parts of the game, right? Internally, we're structured. End of the day, we're making 3 different games. 3 different games with massive interoperability and crossover and so forth. But at the end of the day, they are 3 different games, right? So chances are we view them like, okay, we'll make a beta for this game or for this mode, because what we're looking for is testing wise is very different. So PvE2 is just survival mode. Now PvE3 auto battle might well be ascendant mode. It just depends on how things flow internally, which ones we go for first. We could have a private beta with the overworld. We could have a with ascendant mode. It's just a matter of as to which ones we have. So right now, this is PvE2 survival mode.
Gotcha. I think that's
so
good.
It's just as confusing internally.
Yeah, genuinely, Kieran PM'd me because I confused myself and then I confused him. But basically, we've had 2 things. We had PvE2, which originally included the version 2 of survival and the overworld, but those are being separated out, right, so that we can focus on them individually. Different teams are working on them. Doesn't make sense to refer them under one package, but we did refer to it that way in a devs blog a while back, which is probably where this confusion comes from. But for right now, what we're talking about when we talk about PvE2 is survival mode version 2. Possibly, Kieran might have to chime up here because I'm not sure what the timelines are for some of the other outside game projects. From a game release project, it's the next big thing. There might be some other stuff on the table that comes first.
We're not willing to say it, and the reason is we're not at that lock-in point where we can speak to the council and say, okay, let's give a date. So until that happens, I'm hesitant to say that about any product, really.
Yeah.
Man.
All right, I got a question from Dezersky here, and it's PvE2 related, so we can go with this. Basically, he's wondering, after PvE2 release, can we expect small updates more often, like client updates, or is it going to be like we're doing currently with the one big update,
Yeah, so I want to do small updates. That's the plan. I think everyone internally wants to do that. It's just a matter of whether or not we can handle that. Right now, the way we were structured on some systems resulted in that being a bit slower, as in it took us, from completed build to being able to push it to live, took us, a couple of weeks to go through this pipeline before it was ready to get in people's hands. We're hoping to speed that up and in longer term have these come out more frequently, more frequent patches addressing fixes and so forth. It's been particularly painful in PV1 because of the PV2, right? We made the call, I think Aaron mentioned this in one of the chats yesterday, was that we made the call not to have a patch partway through because we were aiming to get PV2 out, and that would just push back PV2 to get that work done and get it out. So we went, okay, we'll do PV2. And then obviously the downside was we were so close to getting PV2 out, but we didn't quite hit it, and the timeline got moved. And the result is that you've had to wait a long time without any changes. So going forward, the plan is to have frequent updates and be able to be a bit more quick on that front. It just is a matter of tech.
Good deal. Good deal. I think that'll make a lot of people happy. All right, let's bring up Sun Woo. How's it going? York. Yep, there you go.
Good. Good morning, guys, or whatever it is. I just had a really quick question. In concerns with the possible upcoming crypto regulations, do you guys see anything that can be of concern that may change you guys to approach anything differently?
No, as I've mentioned before, we have a really, really good legal team. They work pretty closely with the regulatory body here, and we're doing everything within at this point. The only touchy one, as I've mentioned already, is the Leviathan arena.
Awesome.
Okay.
No worries. But even things like rev divs, they've been cleared now, and they're totally fine. So we're sitting pretty nicely at this point.
Roger. Thank you.
No worries, mate.
Okay, we got a good one here from the community. After the MOBA and the dating game, does a first-person shooter game a possibility?
I would generally say nothing's off the table, right? Realistically, team is very talented. It's not a problem to go in really any direction. It depends on what the community wants, what the market wants, and so forth as to what we go next. So I wouldn't say, oh, we're not going to, I don't think at this point we're crossing out anything. Oh, that's just because Kieran's bad at FPSs, but...
All right. Good deal. Let's bring up Frobe.
Hello. I'm glad to see the top two players of TFT internally. So glad to see you there.
All right. There's a very big gap between Ben and I have to admit, and it's unfortunately not in my way.
And even larger for me.
on the Tuesday session, I got rolled. Once again, people are booking meetings, so I can't concentrate. So I came sick or something. I got my ass kicked.
I'm gonna have to speak to someone about that. I think it's been taken out after I won too many times in a row.
In the end, always the end result counts in TFT anyway. So, but back to the question, you talked about PV2 earlier. I'm actually curious if you could name all the features that will come into the survivor mode, just to make us more excited about it, of course, and for people who don't know exactly what's going to come like very soon.
Yeah, sure. Okay, right. So we have augments. If you include lines and stage, there's about 45 of them. So they are our equivalent of items in TFT. Ours are a bit more nuanced. There's flex stats and some other stuff. But by and large, 45 new items. So it's TFT items, basically. Then we have checkpoints. Checkpoints allow you to save your progress during a run and then reload a finite number of times in competitive or an unlimited number of times in training mode. We then have all the extra Illuvials. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head the exact number, but it is more than doubling the current roster size with all the new Illuvials. Next up, we then have the scoreboard and scoreboard improvements. So that should make working out how you're doing and competing and comparing one another to each other far more easier. It also removes training mode from the leaderboards. Right now, we have this gameplay situation whereby people are playing for far longer than they should be. And it's just the wrong play style. You're not meant to have an unlimited amount of time to make your decisions. Other than that, we also have some changes to how we handle connection to the server. So that one of the big problems we had with the current version is we were a bit too strict on connectivity and so forth. So that resulted in quite a lot of crashes when your internet screwed up for a second or two. We have a fix for the big problem crash, which was relating to Groom. We also have somewhat an overhaul on some parts of the UI. So we have player terminology pass that's gone through on literally every single bit of text that you can see in the game, which means that you get it's a lot more clear what everything does, a lot easier to understand, and should hopefully help new players with understanding exactly what characters do. We then have bonding in the game, which allows you to combine your player character with an Illuvial to gain their dominant synergies. We have dominant synergies and dominant classes. We have, there's a few more. We have some new filter options to allow you to navigate the deck more easily. We have player interest based on mastery points, allowing you to increase the total mastery points if you beat earlier rounds with a limited number of points. So if you can beat the enemy reliably using a weaker comp, do so and have more points in the late game. And we've improved how we handle the spawning of the enemy unit. So it's a bit more interesting, a bit more nuanced, and hopefully be a bit more fun, a bit more variable.
That looks like it. If I can add another question, real quick. Sorry. We have regular patches in terms of balance or bug fixing compared to private beta 1, or is it going to be like same strategy of rushing maybe next big update and leaving aside the private beta 2?
I'm intending to have regular updates. It's bound down to the tech. It's not entirely in my hands. Depends on how we handle that pipeline going from private build to a public build and how we handle the infrastructure and so forth. So it's not entirely in my hands, but that is the goal. I hope to start to have the patches whereby we can actually, rather than having a massive clump of new Illuvials, that we can add them by line and augments in the same manner, right? Have a patch and then suddenly a new character, a new line is in the game.
Cool. Thank you very much.
No stress.
Perfect.
I have a question.
You got a
question for me? Oh dear.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Is Private Beta 2 going to be better than TFT? And if it's not, how close are we?
It's going to be better than TFT in a lot of regards.
Overall?
I'd say equal. Because it's only sort of it's halfway there, right? And reality-wise, our goal is to knock them out of the water when we get to the finished product, right? It's a procedural thing. You go bit by bit by bit.
I'm going to discount that by 20% and say if it's 80% of TFT, then we are on. We are on.
I'll wait till you to play it and then come and ask for a pay rise.
All right. Ned asked about council meeting. So we had a council meeting yesterday and we had one previously a couple weeks ago. The reason it took, it might've been a month ago, like 3 weeks ago. But the reason it took so long to get to the next meeting, there were a few things that went on in between. The team's tools down. And then that first initial meeting back in July, we literally had an entire hour and 15 minutes about Illuvitar pricing. And then as soon as we got done, it came out with that Aaron had the update from IMX that we were going to have probably a different mechanism. So then we were kind of waiting on that to come to fruition before we had another council meeting about it. So our council meeting yesterday was basically about that, a few other topics, but the main thing with the Illuvitars is we're going to end up polling the community for a decision on something that we feel like the council shouldn't make on their own, because the council's kind of split on it. So that'll happen in the next day or so. And
I think we can tell them what the poll's going to be on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so the poll is essentially just, would the community rather have Illuvitars launched and have the sale, and knowing that the album utility is coming later in a version 2 format? Or would the community rather wait for the sale until the album is ready and have both together at once, so that you could essentially buy your Illuvitars and collect them in the album at the same time? So yeah, we'll end up polling you guys on that because the council is a little bit split. I mean, I'll hold my opinion for now, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think the important thing there is to note for everyone on the call is we're trying to keep the council very, very fair. So this V2 governance will definitely have a fallback where if the council, if there's not a clear, I think 80%, 4 of the 5 voting yes on something, if something is a 3-2, I almost think it should revert to a community vote every single time. But yeah, we're to let you know, that's basically where we got to with this decision. And we decided, you know what, let's just test this out, throw it back to the community. And then once we have that data, we can then make a decision based on that. But yeah, that's kind of cool news for governance.
Yep, definitely. And just a couple other things. We discussed the Forge, and I'll be having the meeting notes come out, but we discussed the Forge and also revenue distribution and a few other things that I'll have the notes out probably later today. So that was a question from Ned, and we'll move over here to Jay. You're on, Jay. Good morning, but you're muted.
Good morning. Thanks for your time, guys. Appreciate you. My question, it's on kind of a broad, zoomed out scale. I know you're not giving dates out right now, and you probably can't even. However, on the map of the next betas and alphas to come out, like Overworld and Illuvium Zero, kind of where are we as far as how far along we are, what needs to be done next, and what has been done already to get us there?
So I'd say generally, it's kind of asking just like sort of broadly where we are, and like I get it. We do want to know, but it's like right now we have 3 products which are being, like 3 gameplay modes which are being worked on at rapid pace, and it sort of feels like from my perspective that they're all kind of going to finish around the same time. And again, I'm not going to say dates, but we're working really hard. All the teams are working on the different game modes, and yeah, it's like between alpha and PV2, the survival mode, and even Overworld, I'm seeing updates every single day, and we're getting there. If we didn't go AAA with everything, then we could easily launch these games and not have a single, like you'd still go, well, that's AAA for Web3 standards, but we just can't release anything that isn't Web2 standard AAA
because we know, as you heard from the start of this call, that's where things are going. So unfortunately, it means that Grant looks at Illuvium Zero and he goes, no, it needs another 5%, needs another 10%. And yeah, so around about the same time, and I can't tell you when that time is.
Thank you. That's perfect. Actually, it's kind of more of an ordered question than it was a time frame question. So I appreciate the detail.
No worries, man.
Good deal. Right.
The thing I'd add, actually, just they're playable in turn, right? They're not. We haven't got a game yet. Realistically, they are games. They are playable. They are part of the experience internally. They're still going through these testings, and it's just, hey, let's add a bit more. Let's do this better, or this isn't quite up to standard, or what if we did this as well? It's pushing that boat out and making sure that we do maintain our standards and not compromising on them.
Yeah, I didn't want to say this, but we were planning on allowing Rich to stream Illuvium Zero, the alpha, because I realized the last bit of footage, like apart from stills, the last bit of footage that we put out was very, very much not AAA. So it's kind of in our best interest to get something out right now. I was going to talk to you about this offline, Ben, but if you're Googling Illuvium Zero now and you're seeing that first alpha gameplay footage that we released, that's just a pure misrepresentation of what the actual product is. So I think we'll get that. You'll be seeing someone playing that Illuvium Zero alpha very soon, and you'll be very, very, you'll forget about the delays pretty quickly once you see this being played. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, some technical difficulties on being able to show it to everybody.
We have the Illuvium Insider tomorrow as well with the Overworld. So I believe Grant will stream some gameplay, show you through a few levels. I intend to show off some sort of how movement works and so forth. And we can play around with some settings and make some mega jetpacks and so forth. So you should have a better feel for that side of things as well from tomorrow.
Amazing. Look at that. Stuff's coming. You good, Jay? Yeah, I think we're good with Jay. Here we go. All right, we got one from our very own Fraggy. She's, I think, wondering about basically the disc plates. She said, what's up with physical versions of Illuvitars? How does it work? Can anyone get one? What will it cost? Do we have any updates on that?
So we just, well, not just, we hired a merchandise manager or the head of merchandise about a month ago, and Brian started 3 days ago, so this week. So we've actually been working on the merchandise platform, the actual e-commerce side and UX for the past couple of weeks. In terms of specifically displays, when they will be ready, obviously once the merchandise store is online, which I'm hoping, how do I do this without saying any dates, which I'm hoping very soon. But the good thing is we've got that supply locked down. We've tested a whole bunch of them, Roger and myself. The quality is amazing. The pricing is really good. So it's pretty reasonable. Like there's, again, I'm not going to say the exact pricing, but it's not your typical crypto pricing that we're going for. It's just, how do we make this accessible to as many people as possible? So just think your standard retail pricing, although the advantage of being able to buy things in different cryptocurrencies. And yeah, I think that answers the whole question there. The really exciting thing is that the guy that we brought on has brought two startup brands from zero to millions and millions in sales. So we'll announce who that is in the next week or so, probably early next week, and that'll give you guys a little bit more context on what we're planning for the merch store, because it's not just obviously apparel and displays. We're thinking plushies and all sorts of other, magnets and whatever else Roger and Brian can concoct.
Cool. Can't wait to get my hands on a disc plate. Looking forward to that. Okay. Do you have a disc plate yet, Ben? Or is it just Kieran and Roger?
I have no disc plates. I have been brutally ignored. I have something else. I need to hang that up. We need to hang it up before the thing tomorrow so people can see it. Otherwise, Roger's going to kill me for sending me merch and me not hanging it up.
Okay, let's get Looks Common was waiting. She went and checked out. Let's see here. Okay, let's bring up Looks Common real quick.
So I think you should hear me now.
Yep, we can.
Yeah. Okay, nice. So yeah, obviously you're very busy with the 3 core games right now: Illuvium Zero, the Overworld, and the autobattler. So Kieran, you just mentioned after these 3, you will probably want to make a MOBA. And I was wondering, how did you come to the decision? And could you give some info about the framework you use when making such a decision for allocating resources to a new game?
There is absolutely no resources allocated to it, and we definitely haven't made that decision. It's just my first preference, but obviously, it shouldn't be a core contributor at all making that decision, and it obviously isn't. I'm technically on the council, so, I'm part of the decision making, but I probably won't be part of the council in 2 years, 3 years, if you guys know what's good for you. So I'm just kidding there, but kind of not. But yeah, so whoever is in charge at the time, I think it'll be a decision, very similar to how Illuvium Zero was created with the initial IIP to say, hey, we want to build that mini game. It'll be the same thing as that. We'll get to a stage where we're happy with the current games that we built. We'll decide to start a new one, and it'll start with the community. That's the awesome thing about our project is it's truly, truly owned and operated by the community.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was looking for maybe a bit more detail, like maybe some market or something. Maybe it's like mobile is a very very big market, right? So you want to get into that. It perfectly makes sense. So I was looking for something like that.
Thing to bear in mind, right? So what the process is for making a new game in a traditional studio is sort of experimentation with rapid prototyping, right? As in, can I make a mechanic where, using a sword is fun? Or can I make this? Or can I make you start with something, a little nugget of gold, and you experiment and you find something that's fun, and then you expand upon it. You chase it, you push it in different directions. So there's a good chance that what will happen will be, when we're ready to look at that, there will be, the marketing side of it, on the, the market analysis side of it, as in what's good to move into. Then there's the analysis of, hey, what are we good at? What can we make? And option number 3 is, the other thing that factors into it is, do we have anything cool in mind, right? It's pointless trying to make a MOBA if we don't think we can knock it out of the park, right? So it's sort of be a factor of things that we'll look at in the future. And then the community can get involved with and say, hey, I really want a MOBA, and this is a cool idea. And that's quite interesting because it's actually part of the natural process when you're in a traditional studio and developing games. What you will do is you'll go and find listening groups, and you'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And you'll pitch them what you have. Now, admittedly, that's usually very closed doors and locked off because you don't want to, to spread your secrets too far and give your competition ideas and so forth. But that works fantastically well for us as well, right? Like we can go and we can say, hey guys, this is a really quick prototype of this. This is gameplay. What do you think? This is fun? Or do you think this is more fun than this? Or, we can do it that way. And
yeah, it makes sense. You make some proof of concepts and then try some stuff out. Okay. Thanks guys. And I love the ELV Zero leaks lately. It's really impressive. Thanks.
Good deal. Let's okay, we're all right. So we got a question. Looks like it's for you, Ben. I don't know if you read it over here in the general chat, but it's from Setsuna. Are you able to talk a bit more about the flow of PvP gameplay in Ascendant Arena from a design perspective? What are the main aspects of gameplay you would like most to be most impactful in terms of skill expression, deck building, positioning, countering affinities during the game, predicting your opponent's move, adaptation, side decking, etc.?
Oh wow. Okay. How long have we got? Yeah, that's not one I'm going to be able to answer in 10 minutes, I'm afraid.
All right.
What I can say is you've got the way the PvP works is somewhat different to traditional author battlers, right? So if you look at TFT and so forth, there is a heavy dose of random, right? Your input and output randomness, we don't have. Input randomness is when you have something that changes and then you can make decisions after the fact. Output randomness is when you make a decision and then something changes, you find out how that went. You know, so the famous example is obviously D&D. You roll to hit and then you roll and see if that hits, right? You've already made a decision to hit. And the other example is Civ, right? You generate a map and then you play that map, but the map is generated before you make your decision, right? You look at the map and then you make decisions about what you're going to build, what units you're going to make, that sort of stuff. So we're very different to the other types of auto battlers because we have ownership, right? You're not coming into Illuvium's PvP with nothing, right? You're coming into Illuvium's PvP with a deck that you have built, you have crafted, you have theorized about, you have dreamt about at work, you have worked on, and you have built, right? So that changes the entire flow, right? And puts it, moves it towards that Hearthstone-y vibe in that aspect. But we have the advantage of, hey, we have far more interesting gameplay after the fact. We have far more accessible gameplay, far more visually compelling gameplay after that. And so I wouldn't say there's any singular part of that is more important than any part of it. I would say deck building remains absolutely key because those are your pieces. If this is a chessboard, those are the pieces you're placing on the chessboard. So that remains always important. We then have obviously countering your opponents. The hyper system does that fantastically well, and it's an absolute big part of both positioning and the hyper system, right? What do I place? What am I against? What do I want to achieve? What is my win condition? Well, how do I deal with this problem? All of those build it together. So I wouldn't say they're sort of the main aspects. I would say they're all crucial parts of that recipe, right? And the end gameplay result is the byproduct of all of those things coming together. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. That should satisfy them for now. They can harass you in PV1 discussion if not. Oh yeah, that was another funny question that somebody had. They wanted to know if you actually read PV1 discussion channel?
I've had them all. They're all ignored. So I read it, but I don't see any comments other than Rich. So.
Jesus Christ! Did you just see the link that Grant posted?
I know, he's such a goblin. I can't believe it.
Unbelievable.
My thing's loading. I can't see it. But all right, let's bring up Mon Batung. Few more here before we run out of time, hopefully, if everyone's quick.
Yep.
Hello. How's it going?
Yeah, very good. Thank you for being me on. My question is specifically for Kieran. He's also, of course, he's the marketing guy for Illuvium. And my question is very simple. Coming from the Philippines, where about 1/3 of Axie players came from, do you have a specific marketing video or whatever plans for the Philippines? That's it.
So we're actually going for a very different market to Axie. So apart from having yield available to like a lot of in-game yield, we've portioned off 10% of the token. We're predominantly going for, I would say, desktop gamers. whereas the Axie rush was predominantly mobile players from developing countries that were playing the game to earn money, not so much playing it for fun. So while we will have a massive portion of our token as yield rewards, it's not directly targeting that same demographic, if that makes sense. But I don't want you to think, we're completely neglecting them, because obviously we're not. I would say out of the 200,000 people that are in the Discord and the 2 million people that have registered, probably 20% of them have come from Axie. And that's been due to our Web3 targeted gaming, where we've gone after the same influencers to educate the same people that our game is about to come out. And you will have the same yield reward opportunities, but on top of that, there's no barrier to entry. So while we don't have a version for mobile immediately, if outside of Illuvium Zero, the fact that there's no barrier to entry is a massive part of how we plan to onboard these guys. And yourself, I should say.
Thank you for that. Because you also mentioned earlier about marketing, like most people did Web3, and I read a report that the Philippines is one of the biggest NFT owners.
You're cutting out, Mon. You're cutting out, Mon.
I can hear him.
Thank you.
No, I can hear you. Totally get it. And yeah, like without a doubt, going after Philippines, Brazil, there's a bunch of other South American countries that are very similar to what happened in the Philippines with Axie. And so, yes, again, we definitely want to target that demographic, but we'll probably go much, much harder once we have a mobile version.
Thank you for that.
No worries.
Good deal. Okay, let's see here. We're running short on time. We'll try to get to another one, see how long this one is. This is from Tailless. As far as the Illuvitar sale, what is Kieran's view on doing more than one set release before the open beta?
Sorry, can you repeat that? More?
Yeah, so basically they want to know if you want to do more than do two separate, do the first set of Illuvitar sale and the second set before the open beta comes out.
Wow, that's aggressive. Look, I think all of this is stemming from a single tweet that I put out a couple of months ago, but it is an idea, and I mentioned it again, or someone brought it up again in the council meeting, and it's definitely something that we can do. Like, crazily, we're in a position where we could almost do it, yeah, as you say, with not just one set, but two sets, and maybe even by the time, however we plan out, however the community reaction is to the poll, whether we do the V1 or we launch as V1 and V2, that might be, some amount of time. I was just about to tell you a date. That might be some amount of time. So it may even be 3 sets that we can do. Now, anything's possible, and we can certainly make any duration, whether it be 7 days, 3 days, or 3 years. But we just need to be wary of it looking a little bit weird, and almost like looking maybe even a little bit cash grabby as well, because it was originally meant to be very similar to the Illuvials, where there's sets that come out like every 3 to 6 months. I shouldn't say 3 months for the Illuvials, every 6 months, but it was meant to not be a set time. It was not meant to be a known thing. But again, we do anything's possible. And if the council decides that they want to make it a short duration for the first 1, 2, 3 sets, then yes, they would come out, you know, before some other stuff, but it's completely up to the council.
Okay. Well, we're right at an hour. Do you guys want to answer a little bit more? It looks like Grant is going to be doing something on C screening here too. I think we can call it there. We answered a lot of questions. We're planning on doing this. We planned on doing this bi-weekly before. We're either going to do it bi-weekly again, so in 2 more weeks. And also I'm going to be starting like my own little segment where you guys can come and hang out and ask me questions, and hopefully I can get you an answer by the next week if I don't have the answer myself. So you guys will get to know me a little bit better. I'll even be on camera so you can see me. Maybe we'll decide that. But yeah, I appreciate everyone's questions. Ben, Kieran, you got anything to say?
Are you putting up disclaimers for your video segment?
That it's not me, or
children may hurt eyes.
We're gonna be able to see you. Like that's...
No, well, I got Jeff working on something so that maybe you won't. It might be a augmented reality Snapchat filter on my face.
That
would be good.
Yeah, so I got Jeff working on that for me. But yeah, thank you everyone. And it looks like Grant is going to be streaming some gameplay in CC streaming as soon as we're done here. So you probably want to check that out.
Ask him if he wants to lose another $1 million.
Everyone wants to see everyone wants to see the rematch. So hopefully soon.
Thanks, everyone. See you.
Thanks all.
All right. Thanks, guys. And this is recorded audio version, and we are on Twitch, so you guys will be able to watch the replay if you want. So thanks for joining, guys. We'll see you soon.
Peace.
And you will also be able to watch this on YouTube. That's where you're watching right now, obviously. I just wanted to say in the beginning, TSG's question couldn't be heard. So I asked him what he said, and he said that he asked, with the dev blog stating that Private Beta 2 was the next thing we can expect, can they tell us how that's going in regards to progress? So how is the progress on Private Beta 2? And the second part was, and if that's still going to be the thing that's next in line with the release. And right here we have the stream of Frobe. As you know, many YouTubers and streamers are every day streaming on the official Illuvium Twitch, me included, for next Saturday and Sunday, so tune in for that. Can't wait to see you all there, and have a nice day. Bye.